Yeah, you're good. Well, welcome to this podcast interview Zoom call. I never know what to call this because I don't know. It's just the thing. It's a thing. But we have Grace Betzold here today. So welcome. How you doing?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. I am doing great as well. I happened to dig deep into the archives of my mom's computer and found a bunch of old videos of me just being a weirdo. So it's kind of
Oh,
soulful.
cute.
But yeah, so I have way too many questions, like always.
Cool.
So let's just dive straight into them. First one, tell me how you got into music and then discuss your evolution as a musician or a jazz musician. I feel like I'm not directly on the mic, so that last signal was not great. Yeah, however you want to answer
I
that.
heard it. Okay, cool. Okay. So I was in church a lot when I was younger. And they always had the choir, singing and stuff like that. And I was always kind of like in the little kids Sunday school, and they would have us sing like rounds and stuff. And I
Yeah,
always thought that that was the coolest thing. Like once we started doing harmonies and stuff, I was like, wow, this is really neat. And
there's
then
sound.
just yeah, I was like different
This
things can
wall.
happen at the same time. It's not just like
Yeah,
one thing.
not
Yeah, so
unison.
I was like, I was always interested by that. Yeah, so I was like, wait, there's chords and stuff. So yeah.
Awesome.
And then I in the church that I went to, I put on a concert when I was 8 years old and, like, gave everybody that I knew, like, little tickets.
Oh my
And I was
goodness.
like I was like, "Come to my concert," and,
That's
like, 50
adorable.
people showed up, and I put on, like, an hour-long concert for, like, a full house, at 8 years
Dude.
old. So I've known for a long time that this is what I was gonna do.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that's awesome.
but yeah, it was super fun, and I think throughout the years it's been, um I've gotten more serious as time has gone on, which makes sense, like, as I've matured, it just kind of, like, has matured along with me, but, like, in middle school and kind of early high school, it just kind of felt like what I did and, like, it was fun to me and I enjoyed it, but now that I'm older, it's like I'm very calculated with the time that I spend with music and, like, I
Sure.
practice a lot and I never used to practice, so now it's like it's like a new thing to me that I practice.
Right.
Um, and I think, my voice is a lot different than it used to
Uh-huh.
be. It's, and, like, my knowledge about music is different than it was even a year ago. Like, I've learned so much within the last year. So I think
Yeah,
now is probably, like, the most committed I've felt.
for sure. And I think going off of that, I'll go to a bunch of different points because that's where my brain goes usually.
Yeah, of course.
The first thing that caught my eye or brain or whatever was the 8-year-old concert thing or whatever. That's amazing. Like just
Super funny.
I did a similar thing where I was like what 4 years old, just pretending I was like Dave Matthews, went up to strangers like, "Hi, I'm Dave Matthews." Like
Literally.
I don't know. And yeah, going back to that commitment thing with music, it when it becomes part of your profession or at least like I don't know, in some capacity, you have to have a new appreciation for it rather than just like, oh, this is
Right.
fun. We're like, in a church choir and like it's. So those are interesting
Yeah, exactly.
changes. What do you think is the most challenging part for you? Like, do you have to be more mentally diligent with it if since you're um, training to be more of a professional musician, or is it just kind of a mindset
I
shift?
yeah, I definitely do. I struggle to be, like, efficient while I'm practicing because my brain just goes in so many different directions, and I'm like, "Oh, I should work on this thing and this thing and this thing." So I kinda have to, like, figure out what I need to fix first and, like, what I need
Right,
to work on so that I can spend time working on that because my brain, um, tends to not wanna do one thing at one time.
right. Yeah, it's hard to just chunk things out because you're like, I have this
Yeah.
whole piece and I want to do it
Right.
all.
Yeah, or, like, I need to practice for studio, but I also have GC2, and I also have this thing I'm working on by myself, and then there's combo, and it's like, "Okay, I need to work on
Yeah.
GC2 right now."
Yes. So going off of that, what makes the School of Music at Western Michigan different from other similar schools around the country, if at all? I think we've previously talked about this kind of decision why you picked Western, but also just like I'm curious as to your thoughts having been a year within the school, like what has changed or whatnot.
Yeah. Okay, so um I auditioned here and at Northern Colorado,
Hmm.
and Northern Colorado's environment is super cool. It's really nice, but it seems kind of like it's a fun place to be, and not that Western's not fun, but it's very like um you go and you learn and you're going to be diligent, you're going to be um committed to what you're doing, and everybody around you is doing the same thing.
Hmm.
Um I feel like the level of professionalism and commitment that the professors have to the students, especially in the jazz faculty. Like, we're all so close and tight knit. And
It's
if you need
tremendous.
help with, yeah, it's so cool. If you need help with anything, like, you can go, I go to Matt Freeze with piano stuff. And it's like, I don't have Matt Freeze for anything. Like,
Yeah,
he's not my professor, but I go to him and I'm like, can you help me with this piano thing? And
Matt
it's
Freeze is
just
great.
really
Yeah,
cool. Yeah. Oh my God. I love Matt Freeze. And it's just
we
like things
yeah.
like that. It's so like they're also committed to you.
100%. We, me and the super group, or the super group and I, oh my goodness, grammar. Like we did like a what was it, non-chamber music, like, I don't know, ensemble or whatever. And yeah, Matt Freeze just kind of
Yeah,
like
like a
came in on
combo thing.
Fridays. Yeah, he just came in on Fridays and just was like, yeah, this is great or this is terrible. And I don't know.
I
Other than
love that,
that.
man.
So yeah, I'm just kind of jumping around my questions. I'm trying to keep them like sequential, but that's just not
Yeah, you're
happening.
all
I'm
good. Just
just
do
I'm
whatever.
accepting it. If you could play or learn another instrument, what would it be? I also don't know what instruments you play besides your voice and ukulele. So yeah.
Right. So I like play piano and I play guitar, but I'm not good at either of them. And
Does
like
everyone
I'm
that's good at guitar or piano?
right, yeah, like we're all like yeah, it's okay, it's fine. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I've played guitar since freshman year of high school, but it's never been a serious thing. It's just kind of whenever I feel like it, I'll like learn songs and stuff. Um,
sure.
but I think if I could, other than piano, because I am like becoming proficient in piano with all of the classes that I'm taking and stuff, if I could choose another instrument to like actually be good at, it would be guitar.
Hmm.
I feel like the sound of guitar really fits with my voice because my voice is kind of like folky,
Singer
and
songwriter.
light and things
Yeah,
like that, and guitar goes really well. Right, yeah, and guitar goes really well with that. I think it tends to mesh better than piano, but yeah,
right.
I definitely need to be good at piano before I can spend time getting good at guitar.
I don't know. I feel like you can just take it in whatever order you want. It feels like to me, it's one of those are like the two areas, except maybe piano. So I digress, where you can kind of like go at your own pace and
Yeah,
not have the technical demands that you have with like jazz or something like that, where you're
yeah,
like constantly running around like, oh no,
yeah,
and everything. Like there's too much going
yeah.
on and all that. Um, was there any other instruments or was that basically it? You don't have to have another one. I was just curious.
I've always wanted to learn to play bass, specifically upright bass.
Yes.
I think bass is like the coolest instrument ever. I
Yes.
love it so much.
Do
I
you
could
have
literally just like listen to basses play.
oh,
Just that.
go listen to Aiden Harmon all day. I'll shout him out. My boy. Um, yeah, he's been sending me a bunch of different like cool bass riffs he's doing, just like I don't even know. But yeah, bass players are much more appreciated by jazzers than anyone else. Like I feel like in rock, like the stereotype is like, oh, guy
So much
doesn't know what
more.
he's doing, plays bass, but actually it's most times
Yeah,
the
the
guy.
bass is just a dud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but sometimes like the bassist is actually the best player in the band and it's just so funny.
Oh yeah.
Hearing the
Especially in
juxtaposition.
jazz, it's like if you have a bad bassist, like
You're screwed.
you're definitely gonna fall apart.
Yeah. I mean, with just even the complexities of walking bass lines that I've been noticing, it's just like, yeah, you're staying
Yeah,
in, your standard, what is it, 145, is that jazz? I don't know. Or 256. I don't know. Don't
whatever.
listen to me.
There's so many different
There's
things.
so many
You
chord
never know.
progressions. But
There
yeah,
is.
the point is, yeah, with the walking bass lines, you have to be like on top of it. So
Right.
interesting you say bass. I started playing bass as well. It's a journey. There's so many different techniques, and I don't know.
I wanna do that so bad. It's just, like, there's so little time in the
Yeah,
day, and, like, especially when, like, my major is vocal performance, so
you're
it's
just
like, I need
toast.
to spend most of my time I need to spend most of my time on my voice, but,
Right.
like, you can't just sing, like, you have to be able to play something. You can't just, like, just be like, show up and be like, "Okay, someone play for me," you know? So,
In a perfect world, maybe, we'd
yeah,
have
that's the dream.
just a jazz trio at your disposal all the time. I guess that's the way it is with school
That's the
music, but
dream.
also like, after that point, it's like
Yeah, but
freelancing
in my
and
combo this semester, like, they didn't have a chordal instrument. We just didn't have a chordal instrument. They were like, "No one
interesting.
has signed up or said yes," so we had 2 saxophones and a bass and me and a drummer.
I'm down. That sounds
And we
dope.
were like, "What?" It was
Just a
so hard.
weird
I was struggling, and then, like
man. You know, you could create some interesting stuff with that though,
yeah,
outside of that environment. I mean, you probably did create amazing stuff too, but like, yeah, I don't know.
it was
Okay, I keep
interesting for sure.
digressing on the bass point.
It's
Unless you
okay.
want to talk more about it, it's up to you. But um, this weird. This question actually relates vaguely. What type of project would you want to start with other musicians given the opportunity once COVID is over? And or if you had to branch out of traditional jazz trio quartet, what would you kind of look into? I know you talked about folk a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, I love, like, alternative rock type of music and things like that, and I feel like and, like, indie folk, like, any kind of, contemporary things like that,
Hmm.
I'm really into those. It's just I don't listen to them as much,
Not
specifically
anymore,
during the school
anyways.
year. Cause right, yeah, cause right now I'm just focusing on jazz, but, since I've gotten out of, like, everyday classes, I've been spending a lot of time listening to things like that, and I, have written a couple of songs within the last few weeks that are kind of they're not jazzy at all, they're just kind of like, I don't know, singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, it would be cool to record this and, like, figure out how to do, like, tracks and stuff like that, but, yeah, I'll have to work on that this summer, I think,
Yeah.
because 'cause I've never, like, worked with any type of software or anything like
Recording
that, or even,
devices.
like yeah,
Yeah.
like synth and stuff like that. I've never
Uh-huh.
worked with anything like that, so I'll have to figure it out, but I'm excited about it.
The funniest that like I think about this every time when people ask me like what I do like as a math major. It's like, yeah, if people actually knew how simple, it's not simple, but like once you figure out how things work within the general context of things for audio systems, it's like, wow, we are so lucky to know what we know. But like if anyone else figured this out, we would be out of jobs quicker than like
Oh, no!
imagine.
Everybody's like, "It's so hard," and then they look at it and they're like, "Okay, well."
We're like, actually look at it and it's really not that difficult, but I didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
I didn't
I
say
would
that at
struggle. I
all.
am I am not good at technology. I'm not good at like I look at a computer and if like I can't immediately press a button and figure it out, I get angry. So
You have
I
to
could definitely not do math.
you have to like chunk it out, and I mean it's kind of a perfect system. Like they take you through a bunch of different recording classes and like techniques. So they basically weed out everyone that's not going to work hard at the first class. It's like all the hard concepts, and then after that it's like, yeah, you can record whatever you want and stuff. So
I'm
um
so dead. That's awesome though.
yeah, so if you ever need recording advice, I can definitely do that, but not on the interview because that's just
Wonderful.
weird.
I'm
um
like, so what's MIDI?
what's midi? I don't even know. We talked about this too. You're like, what is midi? And I'm like, I
I
have
was like,
this 0 to
how?
127 number, but yeah, like I know I learned this, but I don't know. Sorry, Dr. Biggs, like I just forgot. What else? What is the most vital lesson you have learned from jazz or through experiencing various music type? That is such a vague question. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Do you have like a direction, like a life lesson or like a music lesson or like a
Yeah, I
personality? Like,
guess. Yeah, whatever has stuck out to you the most. I guess even in like the School of Music, like through jazz, like what have you learned that you would not have learned previously, or anything really?
Yeah. I feel like, throughout this year, the thing that I learned, like, at least about in, like, my perspective is that, um, I don't know in other majors if you would kind of, like, get the validation that you get from being a
Hmm.
music major. It's like whenever I did my juries and they were like, "Hey, you did really good, you improved, and, like, we can tell that you're working hard."
Right.
Um, and it's like, okay, like, I know that this is what I'm doing right, and I know the things that I need to work on, and just knowing that the amount of work that I've put in actually does pay off and, like, being validated like that
Yeah.
is it's so much easier to understand that, like, what you do is good enough and, like,
Right.
I feel like if I were, like, a biology major or something and I ended up with a B in
Oh
a class, I'd
no.
be like, "Oh." I'd be like,
Or
"Well,
like the
is this what
nursing
I should be doing?"
majors.
You know? Yeah,
Right.
it's like, how do you know if you're on the right track if you're not, like, being told, "Hey, this is what you're doing well, this is what you're not doing well." So,
Right.
yeah,
And I
I
think
feel
with
like
go ahead.
no, you're good, go on.
I was just gonna say with like any creative endeavors, it's that type of validation we all want. It's like, is this good? Is it
Yeah.
not good? The best part and my favorite thing about John Campos, the wonderful professor who is a good old hippy dippy, um, he literally like he will tell you straight up. He's like, yeah, this mix is terrible. Fix it. Or like,
Yep.
you know, I don't know, like just being direct and like learning how to be direct with people is something I've taken away from the School of Music.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
like audio people, they're kind of like mean sometimes, but like we're just trying to look out for everyone, and
Yeah,
like get the best
exactly, and, like,
result.
it's right, it's so brutal, and it sucks to get used to because you walk
Yeah,
in and, like, you're kinda like, "Yeah, like, I got into this major that
I'm
I
so
wanted to be in, like,
cool.
I'm kinda cool." Yeah, and then, like, you walk in and everyone's, like, staring at you. Like, you, like, perform and they're like
Like
and you're kinda like,
fantastic.
"Oh, this is well, I need to figure something out. I need to, like, figure out how to get better," and because 'cause they'll literally just tell you,
100%.
like, "Oh, you need to work on that," or like, "Oh, that wasn't good." And,
My
like, if you
yeah,
walk into a lesson and you're not prepared, you will get, like, destroyed,
annihilated.
like yeah, exactly, and it's like, you have to figure out how to work for yourself, and I
Like
think
where's that balance?
that's the thing that I've learned. Right.
I'll share a quick story too, like from my audition with the MAP program. They three of them sitting in a room, just like completely neutral expressions. Like I'm just like, all right, cool. Uh,
Oh.
ask me a bunch of questions. I don't know anything. Like, what's a compressor? I don't know. I just like
Oh,
play him a quick tune, and
no.
walk out of that room. I'm like, Mom, I need to find a new school and a new major because
Yeah.
not happen. 3 days later, I'm in. I'm like,
Oh my god. That's
so
so crazy. Yeah, I literally didn't get accepted at first.
right,
I got waitlisted, and then I got rejected, and then I eventually got accepted before first semester even started. So, like, I don't
yeah,
know. It's crazy to and especially, like, after my audition, I literally walked out and I looked at my mom, and she knew that she just, like, needed to, like, let me because I just, like I was,
yeah,
like and then I started crying. I was like, "I did so bad," and then I lost it, and then after a
right,
while, I was like, "Okay, like this, like, you have to figure out like, sometimes things are just gonna go bad."
right. And you can't get it right every time. I keep
Mm-mm.
mentioning my program too, but it's such a weird mix of
No, you're
people.
good.
Like you have, the 18-year-olds just out of college, out of high school, and
Yeah,
then you got people from my program just graduated when they're like 26. Like it's just
yeah,
everywhere. And yeah, I love the School of Music for what it is. Like, it's got its flaws like everything else does, but you get used
yeah,
to them, and it's just a blessing to be part of that, I guess, as a whole.
yeah, I definitely agree.
Um, so let's have some final closing thoughts. You kind of already touched your original compositions and playing music throughout the pandemic, so Maybe if you figure out some recording stuff, we'll be able to find that somewhere and purchase it eventually. Who knows?
We'll see.
We'll see. And you talk and you talked about branching out into other folk and different types of alternative music. So big question that you might have to think a while on. Favorite album that has come out this year and or song? Only pick
I
one of
don't have to
each.
think about it.
Oh, you
I don't
don't?
even have to think
Wow.
about it. It's called The New Abnormal by The Strokes. Okay, At the Door is tied for first, and then Bad Decisions is like the other one.
Okay. At the
Both of those. I've
both on
been
the Strokes album?
jamming. Yeah.
Okay. Weird. How come? Like, what's the what sets them apart?
You know how some music gives you a very specific vibe and you can't explain why,
Yes.
but it's just like it feels like summer. Like when I
Yeah.
listen to it, I feel like I'm in the middle of summer. And so I feel like it came out at like a time where like school was wrapping up and we were about to get into summer, and I was like, perfect. Like this is exactly how I want to feel.
Cue the Childish Gambino real quick.
Yes.
And then his album too was just crazy. Like everyone was like, it's
He
too
is
abstract.
crazy.
And I'm just like, I love what you're putting out,
You
man.
don't get it.
You
Yeah, you don't
get
get
it,
it.
bro. You just
It's like when
goes
like
over your
Tyler the
musical
Creator
head.
puts stuff out.
Oh my
Yeah, he like
goodness,
has these
Igor
crazy harmonies and stuff in the back. So good. So good.
sampling.
He
That's
said
all I
he's
gotta
gonna make a
say.
jazz album.
Oh, wait,
I know.
Flower Boy wasn't a jazz album. The pseudo
It kind
jazz.
of was.
The yeah, Robert Glass. I don't know if you've heard of Robert Glasper, but he popped out an album that I will. It's F your feelings, man. But I wasn't gonna say that because I'm keeping it censored for our younger viewers,
For
or
sure.
whatever. So, speaking of younger viewers, what advice would you give to younger musicians just starting out?
I think let yourself experiment with all the different kinds of music and don't box yourself in.
Yes.
Because I definitely, I don't know, whenever I was in high school, have I wasn't introduced to jazz until my junior year of high school. And
Mm.
so all throughout high school, I was kind of like, I knew I wanted to sing, but I was like, what am I gonna sing? I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to do pop, and like I
Yeah.
don't want to be a singer-songwriter. Like I didn't know what I was gonna do. And then we got this new curriculum where we got a new director and we got a jazz class put in, and I was like, I don't want to do jazz. I was like, gross,
That's for
no, I don't want to do
losers.
that. Yeah, I was like, no, absolutely not. And so we started, and I was kind of like annoyed that I liked it because I had
Yeah.
boxed myself into this one area, and then I finally got into it, and I was like, this is it. And so I think if you let yourself figure out which is the right area for you to go to and what you're passionate about, and then follow that and use, like, as you progress as a musician, all of the skills and stuff that you learn and like what works for you and how you practice and what talents you have, use those things to move yourself forward, and just learn more about it and get more into it because you'll be more passionate the more you spend with it.
I love it. That's like perfect advice. Some of the other band guys, the metalheads, gave that exact same advice. Like they play like heavy, like death. I don't even know. The metal subgenres don't even exist in my mind. Like they're just so stupid classifying
Metal.
things. But yeah, like the one guy's a high school teacher. His name's Jeremy, and he's like, yeah, don't box yourself in. Like they listen to all kinds of different folk stuff like on the side.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're just shredding riffs, and I'm just like,
Right.
I love you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Just
and
listen
so
to everything, do everything.
yeah, 100%. Well, I think that's about It's actually, I'll do one more question just as a bonus
Okay.
question. If you could be a vocalist for any artist, who would it be and why? You're like, I
This
have too
might
many
be
favorites.
right. This might be kind of silly. Um, but if I could sing with Panic at the Disco with Brendan Urie, like that would be
Ooh.
the craziest thing ever. Like I would have made it if that could happen. He
Isn't
is
he doing a
perfect.
solo thing now too? Like, I'm
Yeah,
pretty
he's
sure.
pretty much just solo. He because everybody left the band and like
Right,
so Panic at the Disco is just Brendan Urie at this point.
right.
Um, but yeah, it's just he's so talented. He's
You
so
don't need no
crazy.
man.
He doesn't. He doesn't need
You
anybody.
don't need nobody.
Nobody.
100%.
Yeah.
Um, gosh, I keep. There's one more. I'm sorry. I keep
No,
lying.
you're good. That's okay.
Favorite jazz standard and favorite jazz album.
Oh no.
That's like the
Okay, my
hardest one.
favorite. It's so hard. My favorite album is Julie Is Her Name by Julie London.
Okay.
It's just voice, guitar, and bass, I think. And it's just really simple and a bunch of standards, and she just sings so beautifully, like sings
Mm,
kind of just straight through them.
yeah.
And her voice is so like low and sultry and pretty, and yeah, I could listen to that all the time.
All day.
Um, yeah, and then June Christie also has an album. She has a big band album, and I like that one a lot. I've been listening to that a lot lately.
Heard.
Um, Standard. I think my favorite of all time is Round Midnight,
Yeah.
because it's so emotional, and a lot of the old standards and stuff like that are, um,
Like they
but
carry a
it's
weight.
just so yeah, it's so heavy and it's so, interesting, and you listen to the words and you're like, "Ow," you know? So, yeah,
Ouch, my
I appreciate
soul.
the passion that went into that song. Exactly, it hurts.
Yeah. And I talk about this all the time with people, but like you have to be vulnerable in your music, even if it's like through a bunch of like subliminal messaging and like I don't even
Mhm.
know
Yeah,
metaphors
yeah.
and the
You have to
wonderful.
put yourself into it.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I think that's about it. So I'm gonna
Cool.
stop the recording. Thank you so much. We can keep talking after
Of
this too.
course.